it's quite common to associate terrorism with poor or developing countries. Africa, the Middle East, and formerly Latin America are and were major hotspots of terrorism. No one would imagine that in a first-world continent like Europe, radical groups have also emerged that sought to achieve certain political objectives through terror. What were these terrorist groups that were born in the old continent? Interested? Go for it. So stay until the end of the video. Before we start, it would be good to make an important clarification to avoid misunderstandings. And it's about the meaning of the word terrorism, which, according to the Royal Spanish Academy, is the criminal action of organized gangs that aims to create social alarm for political purposes. That is, it has an interpretation that lends itself to subjectivity. So some of the groups on this list may or may not be seen as terrorists, depending on each person's perspectives. And since we're clarifying things, let's also clarify that subscribing to the channel would greatly support this project. With that said, let's begin. The Euskadi Askatasuna, or Euskadi Askatasuna, which in the Basque language means Basque country and freedom, was an ultra-nationalist Basque organization whose goal was to secede from Spain and create a socialist state in Euskal Herria. If you've already seen this video, you know that Euskal Herria is the name of the territory associated with the Basque people on both sides of the Pyrenees. So it not only includes the territories of the Spanish Basque country, but also the Iparralde, which refers to the Basque areas in France. Euskadi Askatasuna emerged in the 1950s as a reaction to Francoist repression of the prohibition of Basque culture and its political manifestations. Its supporters adopted Marxism-Leninism, which was strongly opposed to National Catholicism, Franco's dictatorship core ideology. Over the following decades, Euskadi Askatasuna carried out a series of violent actions that included terrorist attacks, murders, and extortions, perpetrating up to 854 deaths and more than 3,000 injuries. This with the aim of pressuring the Spanish and French governments to accede to their political demands. However, these objectives were not even close to being achieved, and by the 2010s they announced a permanent ceasefire. In 2017, the definitive disarmament was proclaimed, and since then reconciliation and coexistence in the Basque country have been sought. The Irish Republican Army, or Irish Republican Army, also known as Oglac, Nan, and Iran in Irish Gaelic, is the generic name for several paramilitary groups founded in Ireland between the 20th and 21st centuries. As you can imagine, their goal was the independence of Ireland from the United Kingdom, which was achieved, so to speak, partially, as it still maintains sovereignty over Northern Ireland, a territory that, according to the Celtic nationalist worldview, should be reintegrated into the Republic of Ireland. Even after the independence of the southern part of the country, several Irish Republican Army groups participated in the Troubles, or Northern Irish conflict that lasted for almost 30 years. Yes, the one Dolores sang about. But as we are not going to talk about each of them, we will focus on the only Irish Republican Army that remains to this day, the real Irish Republican Army. This was founded in 1998 and until 2012 carried out acts of terror, such as the installation of car bombs and some minor attacks, for which it received the designation of terrorist group by Ireland, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Carried out acts of terror, such as the installation of car bombs and some minor attacks, for which it received the designation of terrorist group by Ireland, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Today, within the new era, only its political arm operates, known as the Movement for the Sovereignty of the 32 Counties, which currently does not have any political position, so the unifying objective is probably far from being achieved by the means of the Irish Republican Army. Brigade Rose, or Red Brigades in its English name, was a far-left terrorist organization founded in Italy that during the context of the Cold War opted for a Marxist-Leninist ideology within a country aligned with the capitalist Western Bloc. Their goal was to establish a socialist state in Italy and withdraw the country from North Atlantic Treaty Organization. To do this, they sought to attract part of the working class to their insurrectionary positions, also taking advantage of the existing disdain in Italy for its then recent fascist past. Their leader was Renato Curcio, and their actions included kidnappings, arson, and murders, the most representative being the killing of Italy's two-time Prime Minister, Aldo Moro. Red Brigades was dismantled in 1988 after a combination of police actions and political changes in the government led to a decrease in their popular support and, therefore, their influence and power. Their leader, Curcio, was tried and convicted, as were nearly 1,340 supporters of the Red Brigades, of which 70% were workers, service workers, or students. The Kosovo Liberation Army, or Kosovo Liberation Army in its Albanian acronym, was an Albanian Kosovar paramilitary group that formed in the 1990s with the aim of achieving Kosovo's independence from Yugoslavia, and if possible, realizing Greater Albania, that is, unifying Kosovo, Albania, and other areas populated by ethnic Albanians, which included parts of Serbia, Montenegro, Greece, and North Macedonia. Although, to tell the truth, their only area of operation was in Kosovo itself, when it was still an integrated province of Serbia. Due to its links with Al-Qaeda and its actions that included murders, drug trafficking, organ trafficking, destruction of historical heritage, and attacks against Serbian and Roma populations, it was designated by some countries as a terrorist group, including Russia, China, Spain, and, of course, Yugoslavia. Their main fight took place during the Kosovo War, for which they received support from Albania and North Atlantic Treaty Organization in response to allegations of war crimes committed by Belgrade. Although most of its leaders died during the war, one of the survivors, Hashim Thaçi, became the president of Kosovo. The cessation of the Kosovo Liberation Army's military activities took place in 1999, after which it transformed into the Democratic Party of Kosovo, which still pursues the Albanian goal. And to close this list, we have the Caucasus Emirate, a self-proclaimed jihadist organization in October 2007 by Doku Umarov, which sought to establish an Islamic emirate in the North Caucasus, and for that, it had to expel Russia, which had already won the main phase of the Second Chechen War, by which the self-proclaimed Chechen Republic of Ichkeria had been reintegrated into Russian territory. The Chechen nationalists who formed the Caucasus Emirate had the full support of Al-Qaeda, so it was quickly designated as a terrorist organization by the international community. Their military actions were not limited to the Chechen War and the subsequent insurgency in the Caucasus, but they also supported Al-Qaeda during the civil war in Syria. That is, it not only had Russia and Syria as opponents, but also other terrorist groups like Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, which also had activity in the Caucasus. The last bastions of the Caucasus Emirate were dismantled around August 2016, although possible outbreaks of the resurgence of jihadism in the region have been detected in 2023, so there could be a resurgence of this terrorist group, although with no chances of achieving its objective. In conclusion, these have been the 5 terrorist organizations of today, which, as I repeat, some of them can be considered as resistance groups by some people. It all depends on the perception with which you look at it. But now tell me, do you know any other group qualified as a terrorist born in the old continent? Would you label everyone on this list as terrorists? Don't you forget to leave your comment and subscribe to the channel. Also, I leave you in the description my social networks, and in case you want to see the new videos in preview and have a greater interaction with me, your donations on Patreon, unamanito.net, or channel members are welcome. See you next time.